on and for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I know that we do not have a large audience this morning, but this is being recorded, so it will go into our YouTube channel, and we will point direct, people, to watch this at a later time. Like I said, Coffee with a Capper's going on, so, or no, Be a Boss is going on. So I think that that's where a lot of people are. But anyway, Jim, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in the business, what made you pick real estate, things like that?
Sure. We would need more than a half an hour, but I'll try to keep it brief. So I've had my real estate license just about 3 years. Prior to that, I was in the corporate world with two fairly large companies. I worked for about 12 years with a company called Labor Ready. I was area director of operations for all the offices from Maine to Puerto Rico.
Wow.
So I did that for 12 years. I'd get on a plane on Monday and come home on Friday, maybe. And so, I just had enough of the travel and the politics of corporate. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to take off. And I did nothing for about 6 months. And I got a call from a former boss. And he says, hey, you need to come to work for my company. I said, oh, what's that? And he says, well, it's a company called Novinium. I said, what's Novinium do? He says, we provide a service to rejuvenate underground power cables. Oh, all right. I didn't know anything about electric other than you walk in a room and you flick the light and it comes on. Yeah. So I went out, met with those folks, and so yeah, for about 11 years, I got back into the travel, and I covered all of Canada. And sold to utilities to replace old underground cables that are failing.
Okay.
So again, I did that for about, 11, 12 years, I guess. And both places I worked, and I tell Shay this all the time, they paid me well. I was taken care of, but I certainly took advantage of every 401k opportunity that I could. Shay, you listening? And then I finally said to myself, I don't need to do this anymore. And I really wanted to do what my passion was, and that was real estate. I lost you there. There you are. And I say that because, I used to be, before I got into real estate, I was an open house junkie. On weekends, my free time, you'd think I'd have something else to do, but I'd go to every open house I could just to look around. And I was amazed and I would sign in my phone number, my email address, and I'd never, ever, ever received a call back. And I said to myself, my God, you would think if you just worked a little bit, you could probably do pretty well in this business.
Right.
So I got my real estate license, and I went to work for what I thought was the right thing to do. And I interviewed with 3 companies. Keller Williams wasn't one of them, because I didn't know anything about Keller Williams. And I went with, I won't name them, but it's the big one with the green sign. I started with them, went through their training, and their training was all about how to fill out paperwork. There really wasn't any sales training whatsoever. And I'd go in the office, and I swear, and I tell this story, and it's true, I would swear if anybody would even say hello to me. It was just awful. And so I had met a couple girls during my licensing class, because I did it in person. And I met them at another CE class, and they said, hey, you ought to come to work with Keller Williams. I said, all right, have them call me. So I got a phone call from Jessica, And I met with Jessica and Anthony at the Brighton office. And the first person I met was, guess who? Rachel.
And she rocked your world.
And I'm like, I walked in and she stands up and says, wow, welcome to Keller Williams. How can I help you? And I'm like, holy crap, this is the way it's supposed to be for me, because I'm a very social person.
Mm-hmm.
And so they took me on a tour. They introduced me to everybody. Then I got invited to the office meeting that week. I'm like, how cool is this? And I said, this is where I need to be. So I started with Keller Williams. I moved over and then went through all the Ignite classes. And I said, how am I really going to jumpstart this thing? So I said, I need to be on a team. So I interviewed with a couple teams, and one being the Jenna May Team. So I met with Jeremy, Herman, and Jenna, and Shay. That's when they were still upstairs in the old office.
Yeah.
I started with Jenna and Jeremy and Shay, and been doing it ever since.
Very cool. Very cool. So that's interesting to me that you make that comparison. One of the things that I think that I struggle with when I go on recruiting appointments or when I do a career seminar, one of the things that we talk about is the office environment and the culture. And that is so hard to explain what we are like to other people without sounding hokey or corny or, what have you. So it's interesting to me to hear you talk about, the difference between, the green and yellow company or any company for that matter versus what your experience is like here when you walk in the office. And certainly kudos to Rachel and, now Jeremy who,
Oh, Jeremy's fabulous. Yeah, Jeremy's good as well.
He's our mayor, right?
Yeah, he's a good dude.
So how long were you at your previous company, would you say? And what did you get into production over there, or what finally was your tipping point to get you producing?
So I started with them in October. So I'm not quite 3 years. It'll be 3 years in October.
Okay.
I started with them in October, and I came to Keller Williams in, oh boy, on or about the 1st of December.
Okay.
So I didn't, if you talk about production, there wasn't any.
Okay.
Other than that, I did a couple open houses for people and those kinds of things, but I really didn't have anything.
So they didn't have a mentor program or anything like that for you?
They did, but the mentor program, which was fine, there was no sales training. That's just
Gotcha.
me. There was nothing. I didn't learn. I mean, I have a sales background, obviously, but I didn't learn. It's different in selling real estate. You don't sell anything. You're really making friends and helping people make great decisions is what you're doing.
Sure.
So, but it wasn't really talked about. There was no scripting, none of that. I mean, I've learned so much over the past 2.5 years, and a lot of it, most of it from Jeremy and Jenna, obviously, and Shay. Kudos to Shay too. But in terms of sales and what to say, what not to say, and scripting, I've just learned a ton that I would not have learned. Well, I may have, but it would have been on my own. But,
right.
You have to force yourself to get out of your comfort zone and get on the phone and make phone calls.
Right. Absolutely.
It's as simple as that.
So have you become that person that, so when you host an open house, what do you do differently? Walk us through a typical open house that you do. Or I should say prior to COVID, how about that?
First of all, I was going to say, I wish we could have open houses, and I wish they were necessary, but I don't know if that's the case in today's market.
Right.
But what I do in an open house, obviously I have my sign-in sheets, or we use the iPad. I like the sign-in sheets better because that way I have the information and, you know, I introduce myself, how you doing, you know, are you looking to buy a home or do you live in the neighborhood? That's the first thing I say. Because you get a lot of people from the neighborhood just looking around, which is fine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's the first thing I said, get them to sign in. I asked them if they would sign in, and they always do. You know, and the ones, you know, I give them a fact sheet, I talk a little bit about the house, but the ones that sign in and say they are working with an agent and they actually have a name of an agent on there, I let them go. You know, I answer questions, obviously, but, you know, but those that don't have an agent, you know, I make sure I keep my eye on them to answer questions and talk to them further about what they're looking for, you know, in terms of a home. It might be that home, it might be a different home. Who knows? But yeah, I've certainly gotten some leads and some buyers out of and sellers out of an open house.
Sure.
But
sure.
It's a numbers game.
I was going to say, so when you have people that come in and say that they're just a neighbor or whatever, you potentially, well, I shouldn't say potentially, you are selling your service because you never know who in the neighborhood is also looking to move. And maybe that's their motivation for going to the open houses, to see what the different agents are like and what they're going to do.
So here's a good example of that. I'm glad you brought that up, and Shay will know who I'm talking about, I think. We had a listing in Greece on Boyd Drive. We were going to have an open house, and it was delayed negotiations. I had 2 open houses, like a Saturday and Sunday. Right. So off we went when we could do it on that Friday, I believe it was. And I took another agent with me, Suzanne Hahn, and we door knocked the whole neighborhood, right? And I'm at the open house, and this guy shows up. His name's Julio. And his wife. He says, hey, you dropped off this information, you know, on my door. Just thought I'd stop by and see the house. He lives down the street. Well, that turned into me selling a house he had in Gates that he's renting. And he just bought a multifamily house in the city. So
that's
not that
incredible.
I did anything, but yeah, I mean, it works. I wish we could door knock. I wish we could circle prospect, you know.
Sure.
We can't right now, but.
No. That's awesome. So then let's talk about the follow-up that you do after the open house. So let's say you've gotten people that have signed in, they don't have an agent. So what is your next step?
Well, the next step is that day, that evening, I call them, I text them, I email them. Hey, thanks for stopping by, blah, blah, blah. Anything I can do to help you, please let me know. You know, and I stay on them for, you know, a few days anyway. If I don't get a response, you know, it might be another week, I'll check in with them, but yeah, you got to follow up.
Right. So what is your best tool for success? Do you find people answer your phone calls or more inclined to respond to texts or emails?
Not email.
Okay.
I don't get a great response with email. I have a couple that only email, but most of them, you know, today, you know, texting is huge.
Right.
They sometimes respond quicker. Although, you know, I called a lead this past week. I call a lot of leads, but one that came in, you know, immediately. And I called, and the guy answers the phone. He says, you know, you're the first person to call me. I've gotten like 14 text messages, but you're the first person that actually called me. So I always call, then I text.
Right.
Hey, just left you a message. Would love to help.
Right.
You know.
Taking it back old school, right?
When's a good time to talk?
Yeah.
Usually what I say, you know.
Yeah.
And they might respond, never, because I'm working with an agent, you know. Oh, who's the agent? I always ask that, because if they don't quickly give you the name of an agent, they're not working with an agent.
Right. Mary so-and-so.
Yeah. But if they, you know, they give me a name quick, hey, I'm working with Jenna May, you know, I know I just made that up, but it could be
Yeah.
any name. If I recognize the name, then I'm pretty sure they are.
Yeah.
I called one yesterday, as a matter of fact. Funny you brought that up. I called one. She's interested in a house in Webster, and introduced myself. Very nice lady. And she says, "Well, wait a minute. You're Jim White?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "Well, I work with a Jim White." I said, "Well, there's two of us. There's a Jim White with Empire Realty, and he actually was the listing agent for the house she was calling about."
Oh,
And I,
that's funny.
and I just said, "Yeah, he's a great guy. Better looking than he is, but I don't know. I just, I said, he's a great guy. I said, you might want to call him if you're interested in a home, because you're going to get a million phone calls, people bothering you when you press that button to say, hey, I want more information." So
Right.
anyway,
Right. So, what types of, okay, so you went from basically not really having instruction and scripts and so on and so forth to working with the Jenna May team. So walk us through a typical day in your life. Like, is there lead genning required, or how much time do you spend doing that? Just kind of walk us through.
was that pre-COVID or?
Yes, in a perfect world. How's that?
So in a perfect world, this is me, and Shay will attest to this. I am in the office every day. Well, you know that anyway.
I know.
I'm in the office every day, at least by 8:30. We chit chat, whatever, because I got to have that social interaction. Working from home is tough for me. It really is. I got to be around people. And then at 9 o'clock, hit the phones, and I try, tries not the right word. I attempt to do that for 2 hours. And that can be a challenge as you get your database built up and you've got some clients you're working with, because then they're reaching out to you even between that 9 and 11 or 9 and noon time. So I just have to say to myself, I'm not doing anything else other than, calling those leads or following up with my database or whatever it is. It's harder for me to do from home. When we first went on the shutdown, I was pretty good at it, because I said, well, this is what we got, so this is what I got to do.
Right.
And I was really good. And then I just got, I was zoomed out from all the Zoom this, Zoom that, and then the office opened back up, and I said, yeah, that's great. And so then we started back, and then weren't back for very long, and then I went on vacation, which I needed to do.
Yes.
And then came back, and we haven't been back since. So
Right.
I got to get back in the. I still, obviously make calls and follow up with database that I have, and my pipeline. Pipeline is so important. That's really what I work off of. What's my pipeline, both on the buy side and the listing side.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to add to that pipeline.
So I know Jeremy is the master at helping with goals and even a P&L statement and things like that. So is that something that he coaches you guys as to how to do that, and how in tune are you with those types of tools?
Well, we do have a master. I don't know if Jeremy's on the call. I don't know if I can say this. We have a spreadsheet. It's called Circle of Financial Clarity. So and it lays all that out from it takes your goals, what you need to do, how many appointments you need to have, how many appointments you need to hold, how many you need to take, both on the buy and listing side to hit your goal. Jeremy's kind of gotten out of it a little bit because he's so busy. He's a MAPS coach.
Yep.
So he's so busy with that. So Jenna's now kind of taken more of that leadership role. And, you know, we meet every week. Hasn't been in person in a while, obviously, but we meet, you know, via phone call or Zoom or whatever to go over how we're doing, you know, against, you know, what our goal is and where we're at. Yeah. I don't know if I answered that question, but that's.
No, you did. So basically, do you feel that reviewing that goal every week helps you? I know some people are motivated by numbers, some are not. What does that do for you?
Oh, I look at my goal every day. I have to. So my goal that I set back in, oh my goodness, November for this year was to sell 65 homes this year, buy or sell, right?
Yep.
Because I sold 42 last year, and I figured, geez, I'm that much better. I think, you know, I mean, I got better, obviously. You
Yep.
know, I have more database, and I said, you know, I could do 65. And well, COVID hasn't helped that.
No.
You know, I'm at 28 right now, so I need 37.
Okay.
You know, I'm not giving up, but I got to sell, you know, I sold homeland. I got to sell about 2 homes a week just to
Okay.
be on track.
Okay.
And working with so many buyers, somebody just asked a question about
Yep.
multiple offers.
Yep. I'm
You
going to get
know,
to that in just a second.
you know, so it's a challenge, but I look at it every day. I got to sell 2 houses. I don't, and here's a tip. This is me. This is me. I hear a lot of agents talk about, well, I want to sell $200,000 homes. I want to sell $500,000 homes because I got to make X, right? No, don't look at it that way. You look at the units. How many units? So for me, I don't care if it's a $50,000 home or a $500,000 home, because it's not the dollars, it's the business, it's the referrals, it's the person that's satisfied that bought that $50,000 home that knows 4 people that might want to buy a home or sell a home. So
Right.
that's the way I look at it, and I honestly believe everybody should look at it that way, not some
Well,
brilliant
and I
thing I thought of, but it's how I operate.
No, and I think that like you know, being in sales and I'll use, you know, the comparison that I know when my husband and I were looking at engagement rings, you know, 25, 26 years ago. You know, we were young and walked in and people just kind of size you up and, you know, assume that, you know, you're going to be in the lower price bracket, you know, because, you know, we were only 20, 21 years old. And definitely the way we were treated was very differently, you know, from store to store to store. And I have to tell you that the store that won our business was the store that treated us like we were buying $1 million diamond, right? And I can say that every single piece of jewelry that I own from that point forward has come from that store. So that's exactly, you know, what you're getting at with regards to the price point of a house. Does it matter if they're buying a $5,000 piece of land, a $50,000 house, or what have you? You're looking to build the relationships for life. And that I think is so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because what's happening with my business now, little by little, I'm starting to get some referrals, you know,
Absolutely.
from past clients. Not that they're necessarily now want to sell their home that they bought with me and buy another one, but they know a person that knows a person that knows a person, and that's
Absolutely.
all it is.
It's all about relationships for sure.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the next point. So Tammy Jones is on the call and she said, so how are you dealing with buyers with multiple offers? She said she went $10,000 over asking price and still didn't get it. How, do you have any tips, tricks, advice? Are you having success with getting your buyers houses, or how's that working for you, Jim?
Okay, so here's the first thing that I've learned that you need to do is you need to prep your buyer beforehand. Meaning, you know, if it's in every house is delayed negotiations, you know, and the house is 120, you got to tell your buyer this house will probably sell for 140. You know, I add $15,000-$20,000 on. Now, whatever their pre-qual is, obviously you got to have a buyer that has a pre-qual from somebody. You know, so if their pre-qual is 140, but the house is only listed for 120, you know, you got to say, how much would you pay for this house? Be prepared. How do you love it? I love this house. I've got to have it. Well, if you got to have it, then let's write list price with an escalation up to whatever your top dollar is, because just to cover you.
Yeah.
Because doesn't mean you're going to pay 140. Maybe you'll pay 132.5. You know, something in there. I won an offer last week because I wrote the escalation for $1,025, and we beat the other offer by the
25.
I always put something weird in there. I used to do it $1,000, $500. Now I put something crazy in it just to make it stand out. You know, you got to look at all the angles. You know, multiple offers. You know, an offer is two things. It's price and terms, right? So how much you're going to give them for their house, but what are your terms? What kind of mortgage are you getting? How quick can you close? How much of an earnest money deposit? The more you can give them, the better. And of course, the big elephant in the room is, what about home inspection? You know, you don't ever want to tell anybody to waive a home inspection. However, boy, if you know it's got a new roof and a fairly new furnace and the home looks to be in pretty darn good shape, you know,
Right.
do what you think, but those are the winners. So yeah, multiple offers. The other piece of the multiple offers and buyers not getting them is you got to have your buyer lose a couple before they get it. You know, but then you got to keep them motivated, because they can get discouraged. You know, oh geez, I'll wait till next year. Well, what's next year going to be? I don't see it changing. I mean, it might, but
Right.
I give them the whole, hey, if I knew what was going to happen next year, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I'd be sitting on a beach in the Bahamas drinking a margarita, you know. What I do know is what the market is today, and interest rates aren't going to be any lower.
Right.
I say that and then they go lower, but yeah, that's how I deal with. You got to keep them motivated.
Yeah.
You know, I had a buyer, we just got an offer accepted last week, but you know, they had 3 offers they lost, and I could tell they were just depressed, as I was, you know. And I said, look, you know, it's like when you were learning how to ride a bike and you fell off and your dad said, get back on the bike, right? Well, that's what we got to do. And they said, yeah, we know. Oh, finally got one.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a great
hard.
piece of
It's a challenge, but you just got to keep at it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually was speaking with one of our agents yesterday, and he told me a horror story that happened to him. He had a buyer that I think it was a place in Fairport, he said, wrote an offer. His people went $52,000 over asking, no inspection, and still didn't get the house.
Well, I probably lost it to cash.
Nuts. That's nuts.
No, I know.
And their price point, I think they were looking like 220 or something like that. And, you know, to think that you're going to spend 220 for a house, I mean, that extra 50 grand that you're using to try to get the house is a new vehicle or two, or, you know, whatever. So it's just mind-boggling.
You know, my fear is, and you probably may have heard this from a lot of agents, and it's going to start, is that people are overpaying for homes, and then the market is going to shift, like in the book, right? And then they lose their job, God forbid, or whatever, and then they got to sell. And well, That's
You're going to be the bad guy when
that's a
they
whole
call you
other
to sell it
conversation.
and
Yeah.
you do the comps and it's not worth what they paid for it.
Yeah, somebody said to me yesterday, okay, we're probably going to want to write an offer. So what are the comps? I'm like, comps? There, who cares? It's the market dictates what the price is.
Yeah.
I gave them some ideas of what has sold, but that was sold a year ago. That's a different market. You just got to tell me how much you want the house,
Right.
and we'll figure
That's your level of comp, right? Do I like it? Do I really like it? Do I love it? Or do I gotta have it?
Right.
Right?
Well, I tell them, and Jeremy taught me this, and it's so simple is that, when you're showing a house, I never try to sell anybody a house. When I first started, I was trying to sell them that house, right? I didn't quite get it, right? And his statement to me was, and I use it all the time now, is if you don't love it, I don't love it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
You don't love it, I don't love it. Let's go look at some others.
Right.
Let's find one you love and then go all in and buy it.
Right. Right.
Just keep
So,
it.
so has your strategy been to try to focus on getting listings? Is
Oh
it safe?
God, I wish I could. Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, and I've got a few in the pipeline that'll be coming. I see these agents on Facebook, and I get it. I'd probably do the same thing. They say, hey, list with me because we'll sell your house with multiple offers, over asking, we're the best. Okay. No kidding.
Maybe I ought to hook you up with cheeseburger soup every time. You
Yeah,
could use that to go door knocking.
what the key is, what I tell both buyers and sellers, really, selling a home is the easy part, really is.
Yeah.
It's getting it to close is where the work comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we have, Shay's on the call. I think Maria was on the call, and they make my life a whole lot easier for sure, because I get it under contract and then I'm still involved, don't get me wrong, but they take it from contract to close to make sure if it's going to close on Friday, it does.
Right.
And that's so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the
anyway.
hard part, yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you. Sorry about that. So, where was I? So, yes. So when you have, let's say you have a listing, right? You have somebody that wants to sell, but also they're not moving out of the area. Let's say, I don't know, they got a job on the other side of town and it just makes more sense to move, from east side to west side or vice versa. How do you go about handling something like that, especially in these times? Do you encourage them to sell first, get their house wrapped up, do interim housing, what does that series of events look like for you these days?
So that is really going to depend on their financial situation, meaning if they were to buy a new house, are they contingent on the sale of their home, right? If they're not contingent on the sale of their home, then let's find a house, get something. We know we're going to sell their house pretty quickly, if it's priced right and in good condition. So I would say, let's buy a house and let's get your house on the market. And, Shay will always put in the listing comments that it's subject to, transfer of title. So we don't get caught up in, oh my goodness. Now, if they're contingent, wow, to get an offer accepted on the buy side with someone who is contingent on the sale of a home, that could be tricky, depending. So then I would get their house listed, at least listed. Maybe we can get an offer on it. So they're still contingent because they're contingent on the transfer of title, but we at least have an offer on it. And then we try to work through that process of making sure we can find a home and get them to close same time. That could be the challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, that's where when I said buying and selling is the easy part, really. It's making sure they're not out on the street because they've sold their home and don't have any place to go.
They'll be living with you.
My house is only so big. I can't.
I love it. I love it.
But that's how I would handle that. Yeah.
Very good. So let's get to the whole capping piece of this. Is this the first time you capped, or have you capped multiple times?
Third time.
Third time. Okay. So what is the quickest time that you've capped?
Actually, last year was quicker than this year.
Okay.
And I thought I was having a better. It all depends on when what closes. You know how that goes.
Right.
So last year was I think a month quicker, really.
Okay.
So.
Very cool. So give me some advice you would give these people on this call. What would you say to somebody just getting started in the business?
I would talk to every single person that I know or you know to let them know what you do, number one. And then I would ask every single one of them, do you know of anyone I should be talking to that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? That should be your conversation with every person you know, every person you meet. You go get a haircut, you go have your hair done, you go out to dinner, whatever it is. Who do you know looking to buy or sell a home? Who should I be talking to? You know, and I honestly, because I have a coach too, Kim, I have a MAPS coach.
Oh, cool.
And she is pushing me more and more, obviously. But I've gotten a habit. She wanted me to do it every other day, but I don't. I do it once a week. But I really do a lot. I do a lot on Facebook, you know, just to let people know what I do and try to add some value, because that's what you want to do. You're not trying to sell anything. You know, come from contribution, right?
Yeah.
You know, one of the bold laws. So, but the more people that see me on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is, they say, hey, that guy's selling some homes. He must know something, right?
Yep.
I'm starting to get some feedback from that. Hey, you know, I got one the other day. Would you be interested in my daughter's thinking about selling her home and buying another home? And that was from Facebook. So I would get on there. I'd be on her every day with something, but you know, you got to also put personal things on there too to let them know you're human. You know,
Right.
show them a picture of your dog and you know whatever.
Right. Right.
But,
So I think I saw a video that you did recently. No?
I do a video every week.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's new for you.
Well, I've been doing it for the past I don't know, a month maybe.
Yeah, that's what I mean though. Fairly new for you, considering you
going on there and just saying, you know, in print, hey, who do you know looking to buy or sell a house? You know, that gets old, you know. So now I'm doing more videos, trying to make it more personal, you know. I talk about buyers I don't give them names, and you know, but I'll say, hey, I've got buyers looking here and here and here. Who do you know that is thinking about selling a home?
Right.
It's all true. I mean, I have these people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great idea.
Yeah. So I do that quite a bit, you know. Some people might think it's hokey. Too bad. You know, I'm just trying to keep it moving.
Yeah. Do you hear that, Ron? Do you hear that, Leonard? How about you, Tammy? Get on Facebook. Do a Facebook Live video. I mean, just, you know, continue to spread the word and get it out there, right?
Yeah. I mean, you just got to let people know what you do. Because, and I've learned it the hard way probably, but it's true. people will use a realtor, the last person they talk to, meaning they're thinking about buying a home, but somebody called them 2 days ago, you know, and they got that name in their head. That's who they're going to use. You call them today and they haven't signed with anybody or seen a house with anybody or whatever it is, they'll use you, but they got to trust you. You know, that's most important. And you build that trust by showing homes and, you know, and trying to just add some value.
Right.
Not
Well,
saying
and
anything.
more importantly, come across as somebody who truly cares, not about closing the house, but about closing them
Yeah,
as a person, right? This is
yeah.
a family that's behind that door.
And that
So,
all comes from, boy, I've learned, you know, I've really learned that when you're having conversations with either a buyer or a seller, the most important thing you have to do is find out their motivation. You know, why do they want to sell a home? Well, I want to sell because my family lives in North Carolina, right? Oh, great. North Carolina, that's great. Whereabouts in North Carolina? You just keep pushing. Well, when do you want to be in North Carolina? Well, I got to be there by Thanksgiving. Okay. Well, Thanksgiving, and then you work your way backwards 60 days, right? Well, if you want to be there by Thanksgiving, we got to have your house under contract by, you know, October, you know, mid-September. So we need to think about getting your home listed like now.
right.
But you find out their motivation and then figure out their time and just keep pushing those things.
That's
Why
great.
do you want to buy a house? Well, I want to buy a house because I'm tired of renting. Oh, where do you live? Well, I live in Irondequoit in XYZ apartments. Oh, most important question. Do you have a lease? Well, yeah, my lease is up, you know, next year, August. I'm like, well, can you get out of the lease? No. Well,
Do you want to be paying on two properties?
right. You're going to have, if you buy a home, you're going to have to pay rent and a mortgage, you know. Or they might say, geez, my lease is up October 1st. Oh, geez, we need to get going.
Right.
Let's meet, you know, because, so you got to find out the motivation and timeline.
Right.
Anyway,
Very true. Very true.
but just talk to everybody, you know.
You're good at that.
I try to, and if
No.
they have cheeseburger soup.
There you go. So, Ron or Tammy or Len, do you guys have any questions for Jim? No?
Jim, so you're on a team then, right?
Correct.
Would you consider at some point going solo?
No. No, and here's why. I mean, could I go solo? I suppose I could. But how can I phrase this? You know, our team is family to me. You know, they're my family. We you know, I watch their kids. You know, it's just, we build a really good relationship, and you know, I love working with Shay and Maria and Jeremy and Jenna and Laura. Laura's our marketing director, and Claire. Claire is now, we brought Claire on, I don't know, a couple months ago. She was brought on to be a showing assistant, so she helps me out, and Jenna, you know, when we have a lot of things, we're trying to show homes and we're trying to lead gen and we're trying to do this, that, and the other, then we can call on Claire to, you know, show home for us or whatever. But it's a really tight-knit group, and you know,
Do you think
it's
you're,
getting along great, but you know, it's just me.
yeah, do you think some of your corporate past experiences kind of lead you to being part of a team rather than solo?
Could be. I just work better when I have a place to go. That may sound strange, but
No.
you know, we have the Jenna May Team. We have offices, you know, in Brighton downstairs. So it gives me a place to be. It's a place I can't work from home. I just can't. I'm not as productive as I am when we can go into the office. We can, you know, sit and get on the phone and talk, and I go in and bug Shay, and she tells me to, you know, get the hell out of here. Pardon my French. You know, I mean, things like that. I would miss it. You know, some can do it, some love it. You know, me personally, I can't do it.
I'm guessing too that you probably crave the accountability piece as well.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. That is when I first started on a team. I said, I want to be on a team because it'll hold me accountable. You know, and it was, how many calls you make today? How many appointments you get today? How many, you know, and I go in there and I'd sit for 3 hours and just call people.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it just, and it's not instant. It's not boom. I got 4 appointments today. You know, but I'm working with people right now. I have a buyer that's closing Friday. I've been working with this guy for 2 years. 2 years I've been, you know, calling him, texting him, whatever, looked at some houses and he gave up, and I've stayed on him, and he's closing Friday on a house. I'm working with another group of buyers I've been working with for 2.5 years. They haven't bought a thing yet, but he's referred 2 people to me.
There you go.
You know what I mean? So it's.
Have you done Thanksgiving dinner with them yet? I mean, I think that.
I might. But that's how you gotta be. It's just, you can't give up on it. You just stay on them, because again, they're gonna work with the last person they talk to.
Yeah. So true. So true. So anybody else?
And I do my best. You know, I've gotten 3 text messages here from people that want to see houses, but you know, some people say, well, my calendar says that I'm not showing a house between 4 and 8 tonight because I need free time. Well, I guess I'd love to say I could do that, but I just can't. When somebody
Right.
wants to see a house, I'm on it,
Right.
you know, and because you never know.
I think you have to be responsive, you know,
Especially
especially this market.
Yeah, you got to be there.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
then you got to call the agent that's listing it to get whatever intel you can. How quick they want to close. How many offers do you have? Because maybe something in there, they'll give you a leg up. Anyway,
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, all right. Does anybody else have anything for Jim this morning? No.
I will say one thing to Ron. You know, my corporate, you know, prior to 2 of my careers, I was in the shoe business for a lot of years. I was a shoe dog in retail. And that's where I learned my work ethic. Really, it's, you know, if you work in retail, you got some work ethic, because it's crazy hours, crazy times, and you're dealing with people, and yeah,
so true.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning, Jim. I really appreciate it. I loved talking to you and getting to know you and learn more about your business. And I hope everybody on this call found this to be helpful and informative, especially, you know, in these COVID times. I don't know. You really brightened my day, so thank you.
I'll be in to see you. Hopefully we're maybe back in next week. I
Okay.
don't know.
I'll try to remember to bring soup for you at some point.
Scoop and tell Chris to fill up her candy bowl because it's
Okay, sounds good. All right, guys,
guys.
Thanks,
We'll talk to
Jim.
you later.
take care. Have a great day.
Great interview, Jim.